All right, Mayor, we are live on YouTube and good to go.
All right, thank you so very much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It is 7:03 p.m. on Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. And I now call to order the 2144th regular meeting of the City of College Place City Council. Athen, will you please take roll call?
Councilmember Jessup,
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland,
Present.
Councilmember Peterson,
Present.
Councilmember Williams,
Present.
Councilmember Sherman,
Present.
and Councilmember Boyle.
Present.
Councilmember Espinoza has asked to be excused today. We do have a quorum.
Wonderful, thank you. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, thank you. It's now time for public comment. Athen, did anyone submit a written comment in advance or request to speak via telephone or virtually in advance?
We did not receive any requests.
Okay. If anyone that is in council chambers would like to speak during our public comment period, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, we're going to move on then. We're going to move on to our consent agenda, which consists of tonight's agenda, August 27, 2024, the council minutes from August 13th, 2024, and excusing council member Espinoza. Are there any items any council member would like to remove from the consent agenda at this time? And if not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Councilmember Cleveland.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. We have two presentations on the agenda tonight. First, Mr. Carlton's going to present on the 2025 budget schedule. Mr. Carlton.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you please bring up the schedule? We won't run through every line item in detail. Basically, if you can read it. It's so funny.
You know how much we like to read the budget.
Oh, you want to go through every one? Well,
Sorry.
we are, we're a little bit behind my preliminary schedule. So currently, we're going to be issuing the timelines for the department managers to get their budgets into us. Hopefully, up to the point before we're going to meet the week of, I think it's September 9th. Between the 9th and 23rd, we're going to meet with the department heads, Mike and I, to do preliminary review of their budgets. And unfortunately, that's only a couple weeks away. So we'll be hitting the ground hard in the next couple of weeks to get those numbers input. The first important date for council is on the council meeting on the 24th of September. That will be the review of the preliminary budget numbers for revenues. And at that point, we'll also be talking about property taxes at the same time. After that, we'll have at the workshop, we'll review what the department heads had submitted. And after that, on the 22nd of October, we will hold a public hearing on the property tax levy and the revenues for 2025. After that, we have a little bit of a couple week lull before we get back into it. And the next council meeting that we have relating to the budget is on November 12th, where we'll be setting the property tax levies for next year. And as you recall, on the property taxes, we've gone 2 years without doing our 1% increase. So we're backlogged by 2%. So keep that in mind when we're going to talk about property taxes. Then after that, if we need, we'll do a finance committee meeting near the end. There'll be a final, be the final budget hearing on the 26th of November. Any final changes will be talked about, if necessary, at the workshop on December 3rd. And finally, on the 10th of December, we're looking at adoption of the budget. So that's pretty much a summary level of where we're at. It's going to go fast. Any questions?
Councilmember Jessup?
And not at the moment, thank you though.
Councilmember
questions.
Peters? None? Okay. Councilmember Peterson?
Brian, could we, I think every year you guys have come up with that. It's the visual representation of a dollar bill.
Yeah.
I've found that so useful when talking to people where they see where their property taxes have gone from 1,200 to 1,500 to 1,900. And to see that we get our
Small share. 2.5 cents on the dollar.
2.5 cents on the dollar. And I think it's always, they always say, well, the taxes, so yeah, if we could, I'm sure you will, but if we could prepare that
Yep.
again.
No,
That's a
that'll
great-
be in the
that's a-
presentation.
That's a great presentation to present to people and probably towards the end or whatever, but thank you. Yeah.
Councilmember Williams?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Boyle?
No questions.
All right, and I have no questions. Is there anything more to add to that one? No?
No.
We move on? Okay. All right, then the next item, let me make sure I'm on the right. The next item is going to be, you're going to present on the TIF bond ordinance draft.
Yes, with us tonight, we'll be talking about the TIF bond ordinance. And this will be our first review of the draft ordinances. And with us, we have our two representatives helping us through this process. And we have Scott Bauer from Northwest Municipal Advisors. We'll be talking about the bond sale. And we also have Stacy Amasaki from Foster Garvey, who is our bond counsel.
All right, welcome. Make sure, press the little button on the microphone. There you go. Now you're live.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Mayor.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And good to see you all in person. I zoomed in here, I think, back in January, so it's nice to actually be here in person. Let me just see if I can figure out the technical. Oh, hey. Okay, perfect. So just a brief presentation again about the two financings and regarding the two ordinances that you're about to look at. And of course, Stacy is here to answer any detailed questions that you might have on the bond ordinances. So the two ordinances allow for these two items. So one is the support of the improvements that you're doing to Majania Road and other improvements. So that looks to provide about $8.7 million of proceeds for those projects and primarily to be paid for from your expected TIF revenues. Of course, they are supported by your general obligation, but again, the expectation, and we'll look at how we shape the debt, is for them to largely be paid for by TIF revenues. The other ordinance and the other part of this is a refinancing of your outstanding voted bonds. So those were from 2014. The call date was December 1st, 2023. That just means that they are currently callable and you're able to refinance them anytime on or after that date. So it does appear that a refinancing could save the city some money. So we'll show that to you in just a moment. Oh dear. Oopsie. Right. Swear I can sell bonds better than I can click a button. The current bond market. So these charts do show the same information. So same data, just different time periods. So The chart on the left takes us all the way back to 1986, and it really shows a very long-term interest rate. So you can see it's from 86, interest rates have generally come down, with peaks and valleys here and there. The trough that you see on the far right, of course, is the interest rates during COVID. So interest rates hit historical lows. Then they started to come back up, of course, as inflation started to take over. But really, if you look at it, rates are not too dissimilar to what they were pre-pandemic, 2019, 2018 timeframe. So looking now specifically at the limited tax general obligation bonds. So the chart you see there, the orange line is the expected revenues to come from the TIF area. And that I think that those revenues are from your consultants. So when we looked at shaping these debt, we looked at those revenues and structured the debt so that in the first 3 years, so 25, 26, and 27, basically those are interest only payments on the new debt. Then starting in 2028, we start to follow along a little bit with the revenues and start to increase it until we get to about 2034, at which point we level the debt service off, debt service being again principal and interest payments, and we just go level equal payments from there on out to final maturity in 2043. The bonds are or will have a call date. So currently we're expecting that call date to be June 1 of 2034. So meaning when you get out to that date or toward that date, you would be able to pay the bonds off in part or in whole with TIF revenues, other city funds, or to refinance the debt with bonds. Again, that'll be your choice. And that date, once again, is not a date you have to do something. It's your choice to do it if it makes sense to do so at the time. And again, these bonds provide those $8.7 million of proceeds. So turning to the voted piece, this would refinance the 2014 bonds. We keep the structure the same as your existing debt. So we didn't change the shape of it. We didn't extend it out. We just lower the payments from what they are now each and every year. So based on recent interest rates, it would look to be about $23,000 of annual savings. If we were able to take those $23,000 out into the future, but put them all in your pocket today, that's what's reported there on the lower two lines, then a net present value. So that's $181,000 if you could put them in your pocket today, which equates to about 4.6% of the refunded bonds principal amount. So that does exceed the threshold that you will see in the bond ordinance. So just some financing steps that we have remaining to do. So we've been working on financing documents, those coming from Stacy and her office. So we have the bond ordinances, which are here tonight, the official statement, which is the offering document that would be sent out to prospective investors who may purchase both series of bonds. So here today then for you to review those, and then back again on September 10th for your approval. We also have a call set up with the rating agency, S&P Global Ratings. They'll review the credit and assign a bond rating to both series of bonds. Then in late September, we review bond market conditions, make sure we're ready to go out to sale. October 2nd would be then what we call a competitive sale. So the official statement will be distributed nationwide, and our underwriters from across the nation, some of which you may have heard, some of which you haven't, will submit their bids for each series of bonds. So it could be a different underwriter for one series versus the other. We will select the bond underwriter that submits the lowest true interest cost. So again, the best cost to the city is the winning bidder. And then about 2 weeks later, the bonds would close. You would get your funds on the LTGO bonds for the Majania Road and other projects. And then the voted bond, those proceeds would go either into an escrow or directly to bondholders to pay them off. So that's completes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions on the financing, or again, Stacy, any words on the bond ordinance or ordinances?
So again, there's two bond ordinances in your packets tonight. One is, again, for the TIF projects. That's the limited tax general obligation bonds, the LTGO bonds. Yes, that one. Again, they will be payable from tax allocation revenues, but they're also backed by the regular property taxes of the city. And so tax allocation revenues, one of the charts that Scott had in the presentation showed that the tax allocation revenues would not be enough to cover your debt service for a couple years. And so later on, when tax allocation revenues are sufficient to cover the debt service payments, you can reimburse yourself or repay yourself from those at a later time. The LTGO, so again, starting with this one, it delegates to the city administrator and finance director the ability to finalize the terms of these bonds within certain parameters. And those parameters include not to exceed principal amount of 9.5 million, not to exceed interest rate of 6%, not to exceed true interest cost of 5.5%, a price of the bonds between 95 and 130%, and then will mature no later than December 31, 2048. Again, these ordinances are the one thing that we have to have the city council approve. And so these parameters are quite, they give a lot of flexibility in case the market moves or something changes between now and the time we actually price the bonds. Any questions on this one?
Councilmember Jessup, any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions, so thank you.
Councilmember Peterson,
So bonds, it's a teeter totter, interest rates, valuation, correct? From Economics 102.
So I'm sorry, are we talking the price versus the yield, or what was your, can you repeat your question?
So what we pay in interest on a bond, and what the valuation of that is, the offset of that is the going interest rate, but it's also true as the valuation or the appreciation of the trust or the value of the bond.
Well, I mean, so the bond interest rates and the interest that you're going to pay or the city's going to pay will be fixed upfront. And so that's going to be, we'll be looking at what is the market spread based on like a AAA credit. And then you'll have a spread off of that because, you know, you'll be say a AA credit.
So that's where the valuation side of the teeter totter, right, Greg?
Right.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, please go ahead.
Yeah, so again, those will be fixed on the date of pricing based on the current market. And then, yeah, that'll be what you'll pay for the life of the bonds till you either refinance them or till they mature.
And what's the TIF impact on that, or is that unrelated?
Well, I mean, it'll be a story will inform the rating agency that there are TIF funds available, but I guess to the extent that TIF funds are not available, the city will be paying these bonds out of other taxes or funds available.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Williams,
I have two questions. I'm sorry, I don't, not that familiar with this, but when it talks about par, what does that mean?
That's the principal amount. So I guess like a home loan, it's the principal amount that will be borrowed.
And then, but then there's the premium added on.
Yeah, so so premium bonds, when they are sold in this current market at what's called a premium. So we have the market interest rate, and let's say for a 20-year bond, that's 4%. Bondholders like to purchase those at, say, a 5%. So it's almost like a mortgage where you're getting points. So the interest rate is bought up from the prevailing rate. You, the city, get a payment for that increase in interest rate. So again, you'll be paying then the investor, say, a 5% coupon on something that's a market 4%, but they'll pay you up front for doing that. So that, and the delta there is the premium.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
The second question that I have is, can we repay anytime after the call date or only on the call date?
Anytime on or after the call date.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Councilmember Sherman,
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Boyle,
No questions. Thank you guys so much.
any member of the staff wanted, Brian, anything you wanted to add?
Perfect.
And then, so the second ordinance is the refunding one. Sorry, I guess I could have done both of them. This is the unlimited tax general obligation refunding bonds. So if market conditions are favorable, we will go ahead and again, if you're delegating to Mike and Brian, the ability to finalize the terms of these bonds. So if it meets the parameters and if there's enough savings, we will go ahead and issue these bonds as well. And those parameters are not to exceed principal amount of 4.1 million, not to exceed interest rate of 6%, not to exceed true interest cost of 4%, a price between 95 and 130%, will mature no later than December 1, 2033, which is the current final maturity of the 2014 bonds we would be refunding, and then provide a minimum net present value savings of at least 3%.
Okay. Councilmember Jessup, nothing. Councilmember Cleveland, no. Councilmember Peterson, no. Councilmember Williams,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No, thanks.
Councilmember Boyle.
No, thank you guys.
All right, no questions. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
We'll think about this all night and then we'll think of questions like at 1 a.m. saying I should have asked this question. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. All right. There's no public hearings tonight, so we're going to move on to our action items. And the first one, Mr. Rizzatello is going to present on the, let's see, resolution to accept the state EECBG grant.
Okay, thank you. So this was an energy efficiency conservation block grant through the bipartisan infrastructure law. We ended up getting awarded funds and then they had some leftover funds, so we asked for those too. So with that, they will be doing energy savings analysis blueprint for fire station, and that'll directly tie in with the earmark money we're getting to execute that. Also upgrading the lights in the parking lot here at the municipal campus, some exterior lighting adjacent to the water tower, and then also this will come as built plans for the lighting over by the pickleball basketball courts and the like at Kiwanis Park.
All right. Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland, no? Councilmember Peterson?
Was this the article in the Union Bulletin about energy conservation?
Yeah.
Or this is related directly
Yeah.
to that? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thanks.
Councilmember Williams?
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman?
No questions. Thanks.
Councilmember Boyle?
No questions. We love extra money.
Yeah, thank you so very much, especially for energy efficiency. All right, if there's no further questions or comments, do we have a motion for a resolution here?
Motion to approve resolution number 24-060, which authorizes city administrator to sign the EECBG grant agreement with the State of Washington Department of Commerce.
Second, Peterson.
We have a first and a second. Any additional comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you, Mike. Next, you're gonna share, we have a resolution of support for Wild Horse Foundation grant.
Yes, so, this is an inquiry to try to get funds from Wild Horse, Foundation to upgrade our security, cameras, because we've had that program in place since about 2017. So that means a lot of the underlying technology in the older cameras is 4G as opposed to 5G. So that's causing some glitches in the video relay from time to time. So, they're recommending upgrades of the older cameras, so essentially the guts of the camera, if you will. And then also this would include money to acquire another unit so we could put one over at Rose Street, somewhere between Cary and Lambert Street.
Okay, Councilmember Jessup,
Oh, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions?
Councilmember Peterson,
Nothing.
Councilmember Williams.
I'm a little bit confused. Could you talk a little bit about why you want to put one on Rose Street between Lambert and Cary? Because it's like a traffic cam, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a camera that helps multiple things. So if there's crashes, it just helps with evidence. Also, when we've used them over at Home Depot and Walmart, they've been helpful in investigations of retail theft and the like, and just incidents out in the field. So it's just helpful to have those cameras as you're getting in and out of the city. It's been helpful in the apprehension of multiple criminals with various incidents across town over the years, and this is another entryway into the city.
Okay, that makes sense. And then secondly, are these seriously iPods sitting out there?
No, that is just the technological name Security Lines USA has for that sort of the platform.
Okay, I just was like picturing, a little iPod sitting up there and I was confused.
Less complicated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I found one in my drawer the other day, actually. Okay. Councilmember Sherman.
No questions. Thank
Sorry.
you.
Thank you. I wanted to say Heather and Councilmember Boyle.
That is also one of my names.
No question. Thanks, Mike.
All right. So if we have no further questions or comments, do we have a motion for this resolution?
I'll motion to approve resolution number 24-061, which supports grant application for $20,000 to acquire one Security Lines camera system and upgrade equipment for 5 of the units.
Thank you. Do you have a second? Councilmember Boyle, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Good luck with that, Mike. Let's see, next is a resolution of support for the Federal Department of Transportation Reconnecting Communities Grant for State Route 125 corridor.
Okay, thank you. So this item would go towards funding and analysis of State Route 125 throughout the city limits urban growth area, Myra Road to Old Milton Highway, such as speed, appropriate crossings, as you know, like with the intersection of College Avenue and 125, eventually trying to tee that up toward the whole eventual roundabout concept, and then various complaints over the years with noise. This would be the first step if awarded these grant funds, because then once they fund a study, you then are eligible for implementation grant money at a later time.
Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
No, but thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland, none. Councilmember Peterson?
Good.
Councilmember Williams?
No questions. This is awesome. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman?
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Boyle?
None. Thanks.
All right, so we're hopping right along. So do we have a motion for this resolution?
I will move to adopt resolution number 24-062, which supports the city's grant application to the Federal Department of Transportation Connected Communities Program for SR 125 corridor, Myra to Old Milton Highway Planning Project. Councilmember Williams.
I'll second.
Great. Sherman, second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. Next, we have Anderson Perry Contract Amendment number 4. Mr. Rickard.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. We've had additional on-site construction observation provided by Anderson Perry due to basically not having enough staff to be there throughout the duration of the day for inspection purposes. Some additional material testing, cultural resource monitoring had to be stepped up a little bit because of the stormwater improvements. And then we're also catching up on some design changes that happened last year when we went to 2 restrooms and some other little things here and there that weren't covered under the prior contract. So that brings us to the amount we're at right now. And this should be the last amendment to the project. Things are going relatively smoothly, just in terms of the project itself. You can't get back in there, but the pond's dried out and it's being excavated. The creek is being bypassed through a pipe. And things seem to be moving under schedule. Permits have been issued for the structures that'll be in the park. So mostly happy with the progress that's going on.
Okay, it's so hard to tell progress and right now, because it just seems like nothing, right? But yeah, and it's just more dirt and more dirt, so it's so hard to tell. Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
I will tell you, I had a small chuckle and I empathize with you in the sense that we had teacher training last week and there was a whole slew of elementary teachers asking, like, when's that going to be done? I start chuckling going, oh my gosh, that's a big project, friends. Like it's not a recarpeting. This is still within the contingency. When we first did the budgeting for this type of project, obviously we do for contingencies to extra 10, 15, 20%. This is still within that same budget.
No, this is separate for the project management and engineering design with Anderson Perry is a separate contract. The contingency is part of the construction side of it.
Yeah. So this is an addition.
Yeah.
But it's still within the REAP funds?
Yeah, there's room in the REAP funds because Brian and I have been figuring, just given how long we've been at this project, this is everyone on board, this is gonna get finally done and everything else could wait a bit. So that's what we've been programming for.
Got it. Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Councilmember Cleveland.
Sounds all right. I was curious though, with all the dirt being disturbed, there's anything interesting been uncovered, like any old construction foundations and anything?
No. We don't want to run into anything unusual or interesting, because that can delay a project. We were kind of chuckling when they were dredging and going to the pond sediment that, did you guys find any handguns or anything like that have been tossed, or nothing exciting like that?
They probably found a number of little shoes and sandals. I know over the years I heard
Or even
people
a
say
bike
that.
or something. I thought maybe we'd find a bike in that muck, but no, nothing like that.
Nothing exciting.
No.
All right,
Beer bottles, things like that. But,
no further questions.
Councilmember Peterson? Nothing. Councilmember Williams?
Well, I'm glad to hear that any books that I read that have, untoward things disposed of in Lions Park will be fiction. But I don't have any questions.
Councilmember Sherman?
I don't have any questions either. Thanks, John.
Councilmember Boyle?
No questions. This was ready for it to come together.
All right.
thank you.
All right. And so, John, what's our current schedule expected, the ET? It's not really
The
ETA.
project completion date is early January.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Wow, that's where I was telling everybody May.
Well, I mean, you know, we'll probably have our grand opening, you know, in the spring. And there might be some delays when it comes to, you know, establishing the landscaping and stuff like that, but you know, we're gonna start getting into the winter months, so then there's construction day delays and things like that, so that inevitably it will, you know, stretch out for sure. Yeah.
Okay,
So tell people May, so they won't be disappointed.
Right?
I'm right on time.
That's exactly what I've been doing.
Don't say what year.
Well, I sent Mike today another idea of a little, what is it, statue kind of thing, a troll thing that we should just add, you know, let's just add it in there since we have so much money, so much space. They have these trolls around the country or the state. Have you heard that they just kind of like, they're just all over and people, no, they're, well, no, they're big, you know, they're big kind of trolls and they're made out of waste products from that region, from that area. So like with us, it could be, let's just say wine bottles. I don't know. But they make these trolls and they're part of this map and people are actually following this map and they go from place to place to find and take pictures with their trolls and they go to these areas. It's done by some artist and yeah, it's a tall troll and you kind of hide them somewhere for people to go find them and take their pictures and people are doing it. It's a big tourist activity. My son from Seattle sent me the link and then I sent it to Mike and this is what I want now. Since I tend to do that often for Mike. All right, so we have no other questions or comments.
Actually, one question, kind of on the topic of old stuff. Has the city ever done a time capsule? Cause like if there's like a big
I
project
don't
that
believe
gets
since- I
done
don't
like
believe
this,
Since I've been here, no.
I wonder if, you know, this would be a good occasion.
Well, for all projects, that would be one, cause with the, with the record of renovating parks, that one will probably be that way, knock on wood, for 50
For these
years.
50 years, I like that idea.
Yeah.
We should have some kids from the schools contribute things.
I think we got some.
Put it in a
city
newspaper
records.
and people will be like, what on earth is this in 50 years?
Some city records that he'd like to put in the capsule and bury. Get some little artwork. That'd be fun. All right, so there's no questions or comments, at least serious ones. Do we have any motions?
I move to authorize the city administrator to sign the amendment number 4 to the agreement for professional services with Anderson, Perry and Associates.
I'll second.
Wonderful, thank you. We have a first and a second. Any other comments? Other than my troll was a serious suggestion. All right, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, I turned it off, not on. Thank you. It's passed. Now I'm on the record. All right, so we have moved straight along to our last one. Mr. McAndrews, who will present on the heat pump replacement at the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you, Mayor. Out of the wastewater treatment plant, they've been having some issues with their heat pump in the treatment building for some time. They've been able to make temporary repairs and keep it going, but as of recently, it's been down and they had Grassi out, I believe, to make some repairs and discovered that it's too old and the parts aren't available. So Jacobs, who operates our wastewater treatment plant, went and got 3 quotes for replacement, and those quotes ranged from, I think, $22,000, have it here somewhere, $22,571.70 to, thank you, 26,000. Where'd you find that, John?
720.
There it is, 724. So all pretty reasonably close. Young's Heating and Cooling was the low lowest quote. And so we would recommend moving forward to hiring them to make the replacement. So this heat pump heats and cools the treatment building. There's a whole lot of electrical equipment in there that operates the wastewater treatment plant. And it's because of that, it generates heat. So in the summer, it's critical to keep it cool. In the winter, it's critical to have temperature control to minimize and reduce, condensation. So any questions?
Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
No, thanks for getting on it.
Councilmember Cleveland?
How is the unit being replaced? Did it meet its expected life expectancy?
I'm honestly, I don't know the age of it off the top of my head. I believe it is original to the building, so I would say yes. I don't know that for sure, but yeah, no parts.
Councilmember Peterson?
No questions.
Councilmember Williams?
I just feel really bad that we didn't get to this sooner. Thinking of the staff spending this summer with all our record-breaking heat, and they're just leaving the doors open to keep it from getting too hot. That just sounds bad. So yes, this is definitely a good idea.
Councilmember Sherman?
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle?
No questions.
All right, if we have no further questions or comments, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the replacement of the heat pump for the treatment building at the wastewater treatment plant and authorize the Public Works Director and Jacobs to enter into a contract with Young's Heating and Cooling in an amount not to exceed $26,000 to replace the heat pump.
Second, Peterson.
Did you hear that? Peterson did a second. Okay, any questions or comments? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you, Mr. McAndrews. All right, let's see next. So we're done with action items. We're now going to be moving to administrative reports, of which we have 3 on tonight's agenda. Ms. Is Ms. Colwell? Oh, she is here. Okay, so Ms. Colwell's going to present on public records codes update and policy action.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. When our former clerk, Lisa Neisel, left employment with the city and I took over the public records request and response duties from her, I had an opportunity to review what we currently have in our city code governing public records and public records requests. And that code was passed in 2017. And a lot of the procedures that are in there, I shouldn't say a lot, but some of the procedures in there, the requirements don't reflect what the city actually does in practice. And so my initial thought is we need to update the code. In doing that, in revising the code, I thought perhaps there is no requirement that the city pass such an extensive code that we have that goes into great detail about what we do. I thought it would be a good idea to consider shrinking that code down to just the bare minimum and agree or authorize city council to prepare a written policy that's reflective of what we actually do and complies with the law. And in doing that, it gives us a little more flexibility. We can respond more quickly if we do need to update that policy. And it also is much less expensive than having the full code updated. So just briefly, in addition, well, I'll give you an example of what we do now that's not reflected in the current code. In the current code, we recommend individuals fill out an online form to make a request. Well, now we use Next Request, which is a portal. So just things like that that need to be cleaned up in the code. what's in the proposed policy really incorporates a lot of what is currently in our code, which was modeled after state law. And it's been updated. The proposed policy updates to reflect more of reflect what we actually do, and then provide a little bit more leniency so we don't lock ourselves into having an obligation to perform records request response in a particular way, just that we have to do it in a legal way. And I will answer any questions.
Councilmember Jessup,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions. I admire the proposed update. It's very concise.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions. Thanks, Ree.
Councilmember Boyle.
I don't have any questions. Thanks for taking this on.
You're welcome. And I will say, Councilmember Williams, whenever I'm writing anything, when I reread it, I think of you.
I'll take that as a compliment.
It is a compliment. And I get rid of a lot of words.
I told my writing for engineers students, I will haunt you even before I die. You will hear me.
Mm-hmm. And so I anticipate finalizing this after staff has been able to have a full review and ask that council take action. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you being here. All right, let's see. Next item is we have a city capital project list transmission to county hazard mitigation plan update.
Okay, thank you. So the list in front of you is basically capital projects that could be correlated to some sort of natural disaster, if you will. So every 6 years, the county and partner jurisdictions undertake a hazard mitigation plan. Any projects that are outright listed in that plan, you are then eligible to get hazard mitigation program grant dollars, and then also BRIC dollars, the building resiliency money from FEMA, which is especially intriguing. Because percentage breakdown on the other 75% FEMA, the state kicks in 12.5%, and then you're left with only 12.5%. So previous plans, we didn't really have a whole ton listed in it. So this, as you can see, we threw the kitchen sink at it. So hopefully when the grants next come due, we'll be able to submit things. The idea is once you all adopt this, we'll forward this consultant that the county has engaged with, and it'll be in the plan, and then everyone will adopt it, and it'll be good for the next 6 years.
All right, Councilmember Jessup,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland,
I was curious about the proposed community building at Lions Park, if that could be potentially added on here, if it had something about like, emergency shelter in the case of some sort of disaster.
It could. That's something we could look into it. The only reason I didn't include it is because it's not already existing, and that might be a little bit of a weak thing when we're trying to put everything
point.
else into it.
Maybe in the
So
future,
I was trying to be cautious.
let's put that down. Councilmember Peterson,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions. Thank you.
and Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
All right, well, thank you, Mike. Lastly, we're going to hear about the wastewater service connection and modification fee codes update, and Ms. Colwell is going to present on that as well.
Thank you, Mayor. It came to my attention recently that there is some possibly confusing language within our code that needs a fix by council. So when a property developer owner wants to connect to city sewer, the city charges a base fee for that, and then starts charging the monthly service fee. And in our code, it states that the charges will begin when water service is connected, which makes sense. But it appears that the intent or the thought was charges will begin when city water service is connected. And we have some areas within our city that we serve with sewer or wastewater, but we don't serve for water. And so there's a gap in that ability, or when do we start charging the fee? So the proposed code update just clarifies that we began charging the fee for wastewater when water service is connected or installed, and it doesn't matter whether it's city or non-city. And I anticipate that we'll bring this before the next city council for adoption. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Councilmember Jessup? Questions or comments?
Not at the moment, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland? No. Councilmember Peterson?
No questions.
Councilmember Williams?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Boyle?
No questions.
All right. Thank you again, Ms. Colwell.
Mhm.
All right, there's 3 informational packets in your reports in your packets for your review. If you haven't done so, please do. We do not have an executive session tonight, so we're all the way down already to closing items. Is there any other business for going of the order? If we do not have any, do we have a motion to conclude?
So moved, Councilmember Williams.
Is there a second?
Second.
That Councilmember Peterson second. If there's no objection, the meeting is concluded at 7:54 PM. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.